ever wondered what would happen if each member of the legendary red hair pirates faced off against Gear 5 Luffy? It's a thrilling scenario that will send chills down your spine. The red hair pirates, led by the enigmatic Shanks, are known for their immense strength and power, but Gear 5 Luffy is a whole new level of unstoppable force. Who would come out on top? Would Luffy annihilate them all with his newfound Gear 5 power, or would each of the red hair pirates find a way to surprise us all and secure a shocking victory? Let's dive into this exhilarating what-if scenario and see where it takes us. Starting off with Rockstar. Rockstar is a very powerful swordsman and he has a unique sword style called the Splitting Sword. He's also said to be able to perforate his opponent's skin with his sword. However, Luffy is now in Gear 5 and he's incredibly powerful. He has the ability to stretch his body in any way he wants and he can infuse his attacks with both armament and Conqueror's Haki. Rockstar would likely start the battle by attacking Luffy with his sword. He uses his Splitting Sword technique to try to cut Luffy in two. Luffy dodges Rockstar's attacks and uses his own stretching abilities to attack Rockstar from all angles. He also uses his armament Haki to defend himself from Rockstar's sword attacks. Rockstar eventually realizes that he is no match for Luffy in Gear 5 and he tries to retreat. However, seeing this cowardice behavior from the crewmate of the captain who he admires the most, Luffy gets super angry and he doesn't let him escape. He eventually one-shots Rockstar with an incredibly powerful attack. Next is Howling Gap. Howling Gap is a very interesting and powerful character. He is a senior officer of the Red Hair Pirates, which means that he is one of the most trusted and respected members of the crew. Gap would likely start the battle by attacking Gear 5 Luffy with his air blades. He uses his roar-like technique to create a powerful blast of air to try to cut Luffy in two. Luffy dodges Gap's attack and uses his own stretching abilities to attack Gap from all angles. To defend himself from Gap's deadly air blades, Luffy coats his body with armament Haki. Luffy inflates his fist and infuses it with both armament and Conqueror's Haki, and in an attack called Gomu Gomu no Bajrangan, he punches Gap with all his might, creating a powerful shockwave that knocks Gap off his feet. Gap gets back up and tries to attack Luffy again, but Gear 5 Luffy is simply too fast for him. Gear 5 Luffy uses another ridiculously powerful technique called Gomu Gomu no Dawn Rocket and pierces Gap's abdomen with his hand. Gap is severely injured, but he has too much pride in him to give up that easily. He gives it another shot and tries to take down Luffy by using his paralysis ability, but Luffy has already seen through his ability using Future Sight and he quickly dodges this. Due to a barrage of advanced Conqueror's attack, Gap is feeling dizzy. Luffy uses this opportunity to catch Gap off guard and uses his Gomu Gomu no Mogura pistol attack to create a tentacle-like arm from the ground and attack Gap from behind. Eventually, Gap is defeated and Gear 5 Luffy emerges as the victor. Moving on, we have Gear 5 Luffy versus Hongo. Hongo is a mysterious character. He's the doctor of the Red Hair Pirates and he's also one of the senior members of the crew. He's known to be an expert when it comes to medicines and medical practices, and he's also very knowledgeable about weapons. The battle commences with Hongo trying to disarm Gear 5 Luffy. He uses his knowledge of weapons to dismantle any imaginary weapons Gear 5 Luffy has created and attacks him with his pole arm. However, Luffy uses Future Sight to predict Hongo's attacks and dodges them with ease. Luffy then bombards Hongo with a barrage of punches with his Gomu Gomu no Gatling attack. Hongo tries to defend himself with his armament Haki, but Luffy's punches are far too powerful, leading to Hongo becoming overwhelmed and he is eventually knocked back. Using his vast knowledge of weapons to his advantage, Hongo creates a number of weapons out of thin air and attacks Luffy with them. Luffy uses his Gomu Gomu no Fusen technique and becomes a giant balloon, deflecting almost every single attack Hongo throws at him. Once he deflates back to his normal size, Luffy uses a similar attack to what he did with Howling Gap called Gomu Gomu no Mogura pistol attack and catches Hongo off guard by attacking him from behind. Hongo is severely injured, but as expected from a senior member of the Red Hair Pirates, he doesn't give up. Drawing his final last breath, he uses his pole arm to attack Luffy, but Luffy dodges this attack using Future Sight. Then with all his might, he knocks the soul out of Hongo by punching him with his advanced Conqueror's Haki. Hongo is knocked out and Gear 5 Luffy wins. Next up, we have Gear 5 Luffy versus Building Snake. Snake is the navigator of the Red Hair Pirates and he's also a senior officer. He's said to be very skilled with his two swords and he has a flexible body that he utilizes in combat. The battle would most likely start with Snake attacking Luffy with his two swords. He uses his juggling two sword style to attack Luffy from all angles. Luffy uses his armament and observation Haki to dodge and deflect Building Snake's attacks and then counters by transforming the ground beneath into rubber and then he uses the rubber ground to throw a barricade of punches from the ground at Snake. Snake eventually realizes that his physical powers alone and normal sword attacks are no match for Gear 5 Luffy, so he resorts to using his knowledge of Haki to try to gain an advantage. With his newfound Haki infused sword technique, he attacks Luffy with all his might. However, Luffy uses his superior battle IQ and predicts Snake's attack. Before the attack commences, in a blink of an eye, Luffy immediately uses Gomu Gomu no Dawn Whip technique, and with a twisting kick, he smashes Snake against the ground. Seeing Snake is struggling to catch his breath, Luffy flies up and reaches high into the stormy clouds. With a grin, he grabs a huge bolt of lightning and hurls it at building Snake. Unfortunately, Snake is too shocked and bamboozled by the spectacle, which makes him unaware of the incoming danger. The lightning bolt pierces through Snake's abdomen, rendering him unconscious, leading to Gear 5 Luffy emerging as the victor. Moving on, we have the infamous duel Monster and Bong Punch versus Gear 5 Luffy. Together, Monster and Bong Punch are a very formidable team. They are both senior officers of the Red Hair Pirates, and they work together as musicians. And in battle, Monster is a monkey, but he is said to be very intelligent and able to understand humans. He is also a very skilled fighter, and he is able to hold off even the strongest opponents until Bong Punch is ready to attack. Bong has the ability to charge up his fist with a powerful shockwave. This attack is very similar to King Punch used by Elisabello in Dressrosa. However, Bong's attack is even more powerful, and it can easily defeat even the strongest opponents. As the battle begins, Luffy wastes no time. He stretches and inflates his body into a giant form, towering over Monster and Bong, and then throws a ginormous punch. Monster uses his speed and intelligence to dodge and deflect Luffy's earth-shattering attack. He keeps Luffy occupied while Bong Punch charges up his devastating attack. Luffy predicts Bong's movements using Future Sight and anticipates his powerful attack. When the moment is right, Bong unleashes his charged up fist, aiming to strike Luffy with incredible force. But Luffy is not one to back down. Using his quick thinking, he employs the Gomu Gomu no Nawatobi to capture both Monster and Bong, stretching them out like a skipping rope. With his absolute freedom and absurdly cartoonish defense, he skillfully evades their joint efforts in a dazzling display of power and resilience. Gear 5 Luffy overwhelms the formidable duo, leaving them astonished and defeated. Next up, we have Gear 5 Luffy versus Lime Juice. Lime Juice is also a senior member of the Red Hair Pirates, and he is a very powerful fighter. He is usually seen carrying an electrically charged staff, which he uses for aerial combat. Luffy commences the battle by striking Lime Juice with a humongous lightning bolt in an attack called Gomu Gomu no Kaminari. This immediately catches Lime Juice off guard, giving Luffy an opportunity to land a few good hits. Lime Juice defends Luffy's attacks using his armament Haki, then tries to electrocute Luffy with his electrically charged staff. Lime Juice's electric powers are totally useless against Luffy's rubber body, which leaves Lime Juice in absolute shock, and he gives off the same funny reaction as NL. Luffy smirks at Lime Juice, then uses his Gomu Gomu no Dawn Rocket attack to pierce Lime Juice's body with his rubberized hand. However, Lime Juice is not the one to back down so easily. Realizing that no electric attacks work on Luffy, he infuses his staff with Haki with an aim of landing a devastating blow on Luffy. Unfortunate for him, Luffy uses Future Sight to predict this exact move, then immediately dodges it. He then knocks Lime Juice off balance with his Gomu Gomu no Dawn Whip attack, and then with the follow-up attack of Gomu Gomu no Bajrang Gun, he finishes Lime Juice off. Moving on, we have Yasuo versus Gear 5. Unlike other senior officers, Yasuo is in a whole another level, so he will be a real test against Gear 5 Luffy. The battle between Gear 5 Luffy and Yasuo would be an incredible spectacle to watch. Both are incredibly skilled and powerful fighters, and they have a very different strengths and weaknesses. Yasuo is a very powerful and skilled sniper who is one of the top members of the Red Hair Pirates. He is a master sniper who can hit targets with incredible precision. He has even been able to shoot the antenna of an ant from 100 feet away without hurting the rest of its body. This is a feat that is simply mind-boggling. The battle commences with two fighters squaring off. Luffy makes the first move by extending his fist to incredible lengths and charging at Yasuo with an attack called Gomu Gomu no Bullet. Yasuo, who is an expert at seeing the future far better than Luffy, easily dodges this attack. Yasuo counters by firing a volley of Haki-infused bullets at Luffy, but by coating his body with the armament Haki and inflating it into a large balloon, Luffy deflects those bullets. Realizing that normal armament Haki attacks are useless against Luffy, Yasuo resorts to coating his bullet with advanced conquerors and fires a tons of these bullets at Luffy. This time round, Luffy is caught off guard and he is unable to dodge and deflect those attacks, leaving him severely injured. But this fight is far from over. Luffy learns from his mistake of underestimating Yasopp's attacks. He then solidifies his defense by coating his entire body with advanced conquerors. Then, like a madman, he grabs the ground, turns it into rubber, and bounces it back and forth, making Yasopp go off balance. Luffy seizes this opportunity and throws a barrage of Gomu Gomu no 𝚤𝚘𝚙𝚢𝚛 attacks at Yasopp. Yasopp, being a sniper, most likely lacks the physical durability to endure such devastating attacks. Hence, at the face of a Gatling attack, which even the most durable creature in the world, Kaido, fell apart. Yasopp is rendered helpless. However, on the flip side, if Yasopp manages to stay on guard and alert at all times and makes 100% use of his superior future sight, the outcome of the battle could sway in the side of Yasopp, because Luffy would most likely tire out if he fails to land a single hit on Yasopp. This would give Yasopp a huge chance of finishing off Luffy from a distance with a single strike of a bullet. Next is Lucky Rooks. This battle is a close one. Similar to Yasopp, Lucky Rooks is one of the monster trio of the Red Hair Pirates. He is ruthless in battle and is the first person to kill anyone in the series. Lucky Rooks has a unique fighting style called self-bowling. He can roll himself into a ball and strike his opponents with great force. This technique is very powerful and it can even defeat opponents who are much larger than Lucky Rooks. On top of this, Lucky Rooks also has a very flexible and strengthened body. This allows him to withstand a lot of damage, and it also allows him to perform his self-bowling technique with great speed and precision. Not only is Lucky Rooks physically more overwhelming than Yasopp, there is a great possibility the power of his advanced armament and conquerors far exceeds to that of Yasopp. The battle would most likely commence with Lucky Rooks rolling himself into a blazing hot fireball with an aim of striking Luffy with the lightning fast speed added with great force. Luffy, whose future sight is on par with Kaido's, predicts Lucky Rooks' attacks and he inflates himself, coats his skin with advanced conquerors, and rolls into a cannonball just like Lucky Rooks. However, Lucky Rooks' cannonball attack is far too fast and powerful for Luffy to handle, leading Lucky Rooks overpowering Luffy and hurling him into the air. Luffy then reverts back to its original size, then grabs multiple lightning bolts from the storm clouds and hurls it at Lucky Rooks. Lucky Rooks doesn't let the shock factor of this ridiculous spectacle to get to him and composes himself, easily dodging all those attacks. Using his fighting experience, which is way more to that of Luffy, he grabs his gun and strikes Luffy with a barrage of Haki infused bullets. This surprise attack catches Luffy totally off guard, leaving him severely injured. However, this doesn't faze Luffy. Luffy regains his momentum and implements his Gear 4 technique of Kong Organ Gun in its Gear 5 form, striking Lucky Rooks with an endless shower of destructive fist attacks. Lucky Rooks sees through these attacks and combats this by expanding his body into a massive cannonball hundreds of times bigger than Luffy, and comes hurling in at Luffy with an incredible speed and force. For a mere second, Luffy is able to hold off against Lucky Rooks, but he is far too powerful, leading to Gear 5 Luffy being knocked out cold. On the contrary, if Lucky Rooks loses his composure just like Kaido did and acts soft on Luffy, he will either lose his fight against Luffy or it will end in a draw. In the penultimate showdown, we have Gear 5 Luffy versus Ben Beckman. While Gear 5 Luffy possesses incredible power, speed, and new cartoonish attacks, Ben Beckman's prowess as Shanks' first mate and his intelligence make him a formidable opponent. As the fight begins, Luffy unleashes his Looney Tunes style attacks, surprising Ben with the sheer absurdity of his moves. However, Ben quickly adapts to Luffy's unpredictable fighting style. Thanks to his advanced intellect and great thinking capabilities, he strategically counters Luffy's assaults, dodging and evading the unimaginable attacks that seemed impossible before. Ben's mastery of Haki comes into play as he expertly coats his rifle's rounds with Haki, delivering powerful shots that push Luffy on the defensive. Despite Luffy's enhanced durability and the ability to recover from damage, Ben's precise and calculated attacks find openings in his defenses. Luffy attempts to use his Gear 5 techniques such as Gomu Gomu no 𝚤𝚘𝚙𝚢𝚛 and Gomu Gomu no Gigant, but Ben counters with his own expertly infused Haki techniques. His advanced Conqueror's Haki disrupts Luffy's focus, making it difficult for him to maintain his most potent attacks. In a stunning display of agility and strength, Ben Beckman showcases his nimbleness, easily avoiding Luffy's incoming attacks while delivering devastating blows of his own. He manages to land precise shots against Luffy, exploiting weaknesses in the cartoonish pliable defense. Ultimately, Ben's skill, experience, and mastery of advanced Haki proved too much for Gear 5 Luffy to handle. Despite Luffy's tenacity and determination, he succumbs to Ben Beckman's strategic brilliance and formidable combat skills, leading to Ben's victory in this intense battle. The battle you've all been waiting for. Despite Luffy's Luffy's incredible power and unimaginable attacks in Gear 5, Shanks' reputation as the killer of observation haki and one of the strongest haki users in One Piece history will prove to be the deciding factor. Although we most likely know what the outcome is going to be, here's the best possible scenario of how the battle between Gear 5 Luffy and Shanks might play out. As the battle commences, Luffy launches his ridiculously powerful, absurd cartoon-style attacks, impressing Shanks with the sheer magnitude of his strength and speed. However, Shanks, with his perfected haki forms, effortlessly counters Luffy's onslaught. He predicts and evades Luffy's attacks with his exceptional observation haki and kills off the possibility of Luffy using any form of observation haki. Luffy attempts to use an arsenal of Gear 5 attacks such as Gomu Gomu no Buzz-Gun Gatling or Gomu Gomu no Gigant Bowling Ball, but Shanks' mastery of advanced armament haki easily nullifies the impact of Luffy's blows. Shanks answers to Luffy's barrage of assaults with a fiery response of his own. He pulls out his legendary sword Griffon and uses an attack called Divine Departure, the scale of which is way bigger than the one Shanks used to knock out Captain Kidd. Unable to use Future Sight, Luffy is rendered powerless and eats this devastating attack head on. However, unlike the loser Kidd, Luffy is far from over and he quickly recovers from the damage. Realizing Gear 5 Luffy is far more resilient and strong than he expected him to be, Shanks gets serious. He showcases his overwhelming Conqueror's haki, which he recently used to make an admiral flee for his life, even from miles away. This power significantly rattles even the mighty Gear 5 Luffy and disrupts his concentration. Shanks takes advantage of this opportunity to launch endless barrage of Conqueror's haki assaults at Luffy. Despite Gear 5 Luffy's resilience and ability to quickly recover from damage, Shanks' experience and reputation as a former Rockstar pirate member and one of the most potent haki users proves too much for him to handle. Shanks' exceptional speed, haki prowess and commanding presence overshadows even the most powerful Gear 5 Luffy. In the end, Shanks emerges victorious, leaving Luffy in awe of his idol's strength and skill. Though Luffy fought valiantly, he realizes that there is still much for him to learn and improve upon to reach the level of his red-haired idol Shanks.